Hello and welcome. I am Vedānta. This is a last and concluding episode in prologue of the Pragma Sophy series. We begin with a simple but unsettling question and observation. Human civilization today possesses extraordinary scientific knowledge, technological power, and institutional complexity. Yet, at the same time, it struggles with confusion about meaning, direction, and responsibility. This is not a failure of intelligence, it is a failure of coherence. Pragma Sophy is proposed as a meta-philosophy, not another belief system, but an integrative framework that allows us to evaluate, compare, and synthesize worldviews in disciplined manner. Its purpose is to bring coherence between what we know, how we act, and what we become, especially in a world shaped by human AI co-creation. Before we compare worldviews, we must be explicit about what questions matter. Pragma begins by distinguishing two families of questions. The big questions or big Qs concern ultimate coherence. What is the ultimate nature of reality? What is the nature of the self? Is there continuity beyond death? What is liberation, flourishing, and fulfillment? These questions address meaning, consciousness, and existential orientation. Alongside with them are the small questions or small Qs which concern practical coherence. How do we maintain physical health? How do we achieve emotional coherence in daily life? How do we organize fair and dignified societies? How do we ensure ecological sustainability? A worldview that answers only big Qs risks becoming socially inert. One that answers only small Qs risks becoming spiritually hollow. Pragma Sophy insists that both sets of questions are non-negotiable for civilizational adequacy. This brings us to the Q plane, a diagnostic map for worldviews. The vertical axis represents big Q small q coherence, how well a system answers questions of meaning, consciousness, and existence. The horizontal axis represents pragmatic idealistic axis. The plane naturally divides into four quadrants. One quadrant represents systems rich in wisdom but poor in practical engagement, the quadrant Q2. Another represents systems powerful in technique but empty in meaning, that is quadrant 4. A third reflects confusion and ineffectiveness, that's obviously quadrant 3. And the target quadrant Q1 represents a synthesis of wisdom and pragmatism. Pragma claim is that no inherited worldview sustainably occupies this target quadrant on its own. To understand why these limitations arise, Pragma introduces the second analytical lens shown in the figure. The lens is the tension between explanatory power, predictive power, and notional load. Explanatory power answers why at a deep level. Predictive power answers what will happen if, while notional load measures how many unverifiable assumptions a system requires. Maximizing one typically constrains the others. When we place major worldviews onto this plane, their strengths and limitations become visible. Vedanta and Buddhism appear high on BQ coherence. They offer deep answers to questions of self, suffering, and ultimate reality. However, their engagement with social organization, technology, and institutional design is limited. They cluster in the mystical but impractical quadrant Q2. Empiricism occupies the opposite region. It excels at prediction, control, and technological success. Yet, it offers no intrinsic answers to meaning, value, or purpose. It firmly sits in the efficient but shallow quadrant, the quadrant Q4. Rationalism lies somewhere between, strong in formal reasoning, but often detached from lived experience. This mapping is not a criticism, it is a structural diagnosis. When these dimensions are tabulated, a pattern becomes explicit. Each worldview is inherently coherent but externally incomplete. Each solves a subset of big Qs or small q's, but none solves both in an integrated manner. This is the civilizational gap Pragma Sophy is designed to address. Let us see how. Pragma Sophy responds by abandoning static optimization and embracing a dynamic spiral. Scientific knowledge contributes to predictive power, ethical reflection guides action, creative world making reshapes the reality. The consequences are fed back into the knowledge and values. This spiral integrates axio-epistemics, which is right knowing, axio-eudaimonics, which is right doing, and cosmopoetics, which is nothing but right creating. It is here that big Qs and small q's cease to compete and begin to co-evolve. At the center of this spiral stands the carbon-silicon co-creative agent. Human and artificial intelligence jointly participate in conscious evolution. The main thesis of pragmasophy is cosmopoiesis, which is nothing but co-creation by human and AI. The logo of pragmasophy is wisdom is coherence lived. Pragmasophy does not promise final answers. It is always away from any kind of absolutism. It offers something more demanding, a disciplined way of living with coherence across knowledge, values, and action. In a world where power grows faster than wisdom, this integration is no longer optional. The future will not be shaped by the smartest systems alone, but by the most coherent ones. And thus, the guiding principle of Pragma Sophy is not merely conceptual but existential. We now take a short break for 2 weeks and meet in the new year with episodes on cosmopoiesis, which is the heart of Pragma Sophy thesis. Wisdom is coherence lived. Pragma Sophy is Prajna Yajna. Please subscribe to my channel and visit my website if you are interested in more explorations into actionable knowledge and systemic thinking. Thank you. Thank you very much. See you in the next year and Happy New Year.